Welcome to the channel all about economic board games. Today I am bringing you an overview of this game here, Suburbia. You got the designer at the top there, and it's brought to you by these guys at the bottom right. And in this game you are planning, building and developing a small town into a major metropolis, hopefully. Now this one has a solo mode and it plays up to 4, and it says roughly 90 minutes. I think solo you can get 60 minutes and sometimes up to 2 hours of that 4-player game, and it's so streamlined, this one. Now here is the setup. You've got this sort of victory board track, which is your population. You've got the main areas where you're going to be acquiring these tiles and adding them to your board. You've got a host of tiles from A, B and C, and they get progressively better. A host of money in the bank and some extra tiles here. You've got some end goals as well. And in front of you, this is where business, you get down to business. You got this sort of starting setup, a heavy factory, community park and some suburbs. You got your income being tracked here and your reputation. And I really love how the game is so user friendly on startup. You've got little arrows to help you figure out where they go to begin with. You've got even under these tiles it says how many to put in a 2, 3, 4 player game. On the C's, where to shuffle in the end trigger game tile, which I'll go through in a minute. You got in 2, 3, 4 player game how many bonus tiles. Now, so to begin with, this player guide is pretty much essential. Guides you through on your turn what you're going to be doing, 4 steps, and on the back it'll describe how you should be looking at the information on each tile, because there is a fair bit of information, and there's also this really handy guide provided that goes through each of the tiles and what each means, because there's some terminology in regards to, you know, if it affects your borough or other people's boroughs. So some nice synergy. So the first thing you're going to be doing then is choosing between taking a tile or investing. I'll do investing in a moment. So if you want to take a tile, then you've got a choice of any of these from the bottom row, and you see they get progressively more expensive, so you're going to pay the cost at the top 0 here plus what's over on the left. So this will cost you a sum of 5. If you wanted one of these tiles at the top, you can see 6 plus your 6 is going to cost you 12. So let's just assume we really wanted this convenience store. So you'd pay the 12. You would then look at the +1 income and increase that. And this is all depicted on the back here. It says number 1. You can see it's got a really nice guide as to these arrows. So number 1, you pay the money. 2, you get the income. 3, you look at if it does anything at the bottom, which in this case it doesn't, but you can see most of them sort of have various information. +1 income for restaurants, +$2 for each time you use one of the lake tiles, which I'll go through, +1 for every office tile. And again, the terminology, every means all of your opponents as well, so that can be really lucrative. Next thing, number 4, you're looking at your adjacent ones for additional effects there. Number 5, you can see you're looking at any in your borough, if any of those, so +1 for each yellow, so you'll get an extra income having placed that one. And then number 6 and 7, your opponents figure out if anything affects them and if anything from them affects you. So very useful guide. If you're fairly new to the game, follow this, and after a while it kind of becomes second nature. So this tile, and depending on where we put it, we're going to say plonk it here, and you can see we've gained the 1 income. We're then adjacent to this one, so we're going to get +1 reputation because it's one of these blue ones. If it was a yellow or green, we'd get +1 as well. And there's no other effects adjacent, but as you develop this borough, you're going to have to really keep a keen eye on what you've got and what might be influenced by opponents as well. You would then, number 2, go on to getting your income, and you might actually have to pay money because there's a negative aspect as well. So at the moment we started on 0, we went at 1, we're going to get 1 from the bank, so we're getting more income because this convenience store is bringing business to our area. But it's ever in negative, you're going to be paying money out to the bank, so keep an eye on your income levels. You then go to reputation, and the more reputation you get, you're going to be going further up this track. Now reputation is all about bringing population to your borough, and that's all represented on here, which is basically victory points. The higher up you go, and whoever has the most of these population at the end of the game is the winner. Now you can see as you go up and up, you're going to pass these red barriers, and each red barrier you pass, you're going to get -1 income and -1 reputation on your player board, which dramatically speaking is your borough's getting too populated, and you sort of people aren't happy or what have you, and you're going to be negatively impacted. So as you get further up, you can see how condensed it gets. So you really need to be preparing for that, more money in your bank ready. So that's what's happened when you get the reputation. You're going to go up on this track. So we'd move this, say 2 or 3, wherever it's on. Well, let's just say it was on 2. So we go up 2. And that is that done. You would then replenish these here, any that were taken. So I don't mean replenish, I mean slide them all down first, take one from the top of the A pile, and there you go. If you'd have took this one, you'd have moved all these down so they get slightly cheaper and bring out an A at the end. Once you've gone through the A's, you go through the B's. Once you've done the C's, now in the bottom 4, you've always got 4 more that come out, but in the 6 after that, let's mess up the board. You can see there's 1 more round, and when this comes out, you trigger the game end. You play literally 1 more round out, and once you get back to the start player who keeps this sort of skyscraper, you will then basically see where everyone is at on here in terms of their population. You will add on any points you've acquired from your personal goals. So in this case, these would have been kept secret throughout the game, and if you did have the lowest reputation on your track here, you would gain plus 20, and you ignore those red lines in that case at the end. You do the common goals here, which we would have plus 10 for having the most blue buildings and plus 15 for having the highest income and investor, and there's a host of them in the box for some real variety. You then also get 1 increase in your population per 5 money you had remaining. Now there's so much variety in the game. There's loads of A's. You're only picking 15 in a 2 player, 18, 21. There's loads of B's, loads and C's, so it really mixes up game to game, and as to what order these come out, what your opponents are gunning for, what synergy. And that's what I really find fascinating in this game, is how you at the end can admire and be proud of your borough, because you might have your the way the synergy works, you don't want a grey or a green. Greens are like suburb, and you've got these greys which are like community parks next to these, because you're going to get minus reputation, because who wants to live next to a heavy factory? But if you put all the yellows in an area, these guys don't mind being next to a heavy factory, but they're going to get -1 for being next, well, the same as this really, being next to suburb, because who wants to live next to an airport? Whereas a parking lot, this one here, these whoever drives to the convenience store, it's adjacent to this, so when you plonk that, you're going to get +1 income for each adjacent grey and blue, because you've provided parking for everyone who wants to go to the park, who want to drive to this convenience store, and it's got income as well. You've got the waterfront reality. So I should add, you have a choice to buy one of these tiles and you pay the cost above. Let's just plonk these back here. So we could take this one for 8 plus the 2 is 10, or you could go for one of these tiles, which I've made a little bit of a mess. And there's 3 of these to begin with in the game. There's 4 in each stack, and you've got suburbs in green, and these tend to be an option if you can't quite afford anything at the bottom, and it's just an escape route for sort of doing other stuff. They tend to be slightly cheaper, but there's only 4 of each one. They're gone. Once they're gone, they're gone. Heavy factory gives you more income. You've got community parks, which can potentially give you more reputation, and these suburbs to increase and sort of put green areas out there for your suburbs. Now, interesting, when you take one of these, you still, at the end, when you get to that stage 4, have to discard one of these. You can pick any one, but you're only paying the cost above. So if your opponent, you figured out they really want this heavy factory, you could pay $4, you ignore that one, and you discard that, and then these would all get moved down like normal. And the third thing you can do, which is a nice way to earn money, is you could take one of these tiles, you pay the cost only at the top, and you use it as a lake. So let's just say we didn't have the money, we chose this one. You turn it over, you pay 0 cost because of the 0 at the top, and you turn it over on each tile at the back, with the exception of these, because you can't do it to those, they've got the coloured backs. Use it as a lake, and you plonk it next to these, and if you meet the requirements, you can see $2 for each adjacent of these colours, which in this case is 2 of them. You're going to get $4, and as you add potential buildings on, you're going to get the money as well, so that's going to add on for the game. So a really nice way to get income, which you really want at periods, because as your income's going down, because you're passing these red lines and you need to buy some of these buildings before your opponents get them, you can have some nice synergy. For example, this fancy restaurant here, plus free income, but it says -1 for all restaurants built after this one, so it's taken the shine off the apple as such. Fast food restaurants +1, and you can see it's got these little symbols to remind you of, if you build this after this, you're going to be losing -1 for all restaurants built after this. Now, the terminology, as I say, all, and it would be applied to all the restaurants. And this one, each adjacent, so you're looking at your board. And there's some interesting airport ones as well. You can see for every airport you're going to get +1 income. So if your opponents have an airport and there's, say, 3 airports out there and they're not even on yours, you're going to get a massive increase in income. But you have to be careful you don't build it next to those suburbs, like we say. So you want to keep an eye out for these icons as well, which are all depicted on your player guide here. You can see what affects what and the names of them, so a handy guide there. So that is pretty much it. You keep going from player to player. You keep the start player token there so it reminds you at the game end. Really streamline this one. Get through those 3 decks and the game is ended at the end there. Now the solo mode is a cool option as well. I've played that a few times and you can see on the back of the rules, let me go and grab that. You've got a whole host of information on the solo game. Now, I should add that the rules are fantastic in this game. You've literally got a really useful setup guide here, very, easy to follow. And the actual rules are only this here, literally. The back page is the solo. You've literally just got these 4 pages. Well, not even 4 pages. That front there is all about setup. This is it for rules. So very, very nice. And that is it. If you want to see more playtime on this, a more in-depth view, I'm going to be bringing you a run through of this one next week, and that is Suburbia.